All righty. Up and running. Thank you for your patience as we get the stream going. Busy evening tonight. Let's get right into it. I'm Jared Smith with the Carolina Weather Group based in Charleston, South Carolina. We're going to do a little Let's Talk Carolina weather tonight. So if you want to join in the conversation, we'd love to have your questions. Just hit us up right in the YouTube chat tonight. And if you have friends or family that would be interested in seeing this, go ahead and share it out. Let's get some people in here. Let's talk some weather because we do have some weather coming tomorrow. What you were looking at earlier was, and we'll go back to it. So here is kind of the genesis of what we're looking at for tomorrow, which is a potent storm system that is starting to gather itself, starting to get together now, generally over Texas and Oklahoma, and this is going to eventually develop some sort of thunderstorm complex, whether it be a squall line, whether it be maybe a cluster of thunderstorms, and that's going to race across the southeast tomorrow. As it does so, it's going to bring with it the threat for damaging wind gusts, a few tornadoes, maybe some hail in some spots, but we're not really as concerned about that as we might be the severe weather threat. So what we're going to do, let's just go into the outlook. So again, we'd like to look at the severe weather outlook from the Storm Prediction Center, and what we're looking at for tomorrow is level 3 out of 5, an enhanced risk. That we don't see this that often here. A lot of times we have slight risks that are typically more standard for our neck of the woods, but the enhanced risk, level 3 out of 5, for a wind damage threat stretching from Mississippi through Alabama, through Georgia, into southern South Carolina. So this is primarily going to be the worst of the weather. Looks like it's going to be south of I-20, generally along the line from Augusta to Columbia to Myrtle Beach, and then south is where that risk area is for the greatest threat for damaging wind gusts. And also the tornado threat the greatest tornado threat looks right now to stay back into Alabama and Georgia. But again, we are not, we're not expecting, we're expecting that tornado threat to decrease somewhat as the storm system gets into the Carolinas. But that's not to say that a couple tornadoes cannot be ruled out either. So that's going to be something that we're going to want to watch extremely closely tomorrow as time goes on. So again, as we go further north, as we go into like places like you get to Atlanta, you get to I say Anderson, parts of Columbia, into Florence. You're in that slight risk area. You still have a risk of seeing some damaging wind gusts tomorrow. The probabilities are a little bit lower for you. And they continue to get lower the further north you get. When you get into southern and eastern North Carolina, including Charlotte, but also including Greenville, where there is a marginal risk for a couple damaging wind events. One big limiting factor is going to be how far north a warm front gets tomorrow. And that in turn will limit how much warm and moist air can flow in and help destabilize the atmosphere. So that's going to be what we're looking at very closely there. And so what we want to do is, get folks, ready for this. Again, damaging wind gusts, nothing to shake a stick at. We want you all to be weather aware tomorrow. Make sure your weather radios are on. Make sure you know what you're going to do if a warning is issued for your area. We're probably going to see a tornado or severe thunderstorm watch tomorrow, at least somewhere in the Carolinas. We haven't really had that in most of these events. And we've also had situations where we've had these events go kaput on us, where they have failed. And all I will say to that is that we hope so, right? We hope that is the case, but we want folks to be prepared in case it isn't. And there is good evidence to suggest that that will not be the case. So what we're going to do now is we're going to take a look at the high res models here. And unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to show them to you in the way that I'm used to showing them to you. So we're going to be using a map that's kind of centered on South Carolina, because again, this is where the bulk of the severe threat will be tomorrow. And thank you all for your questions already in chat. Definitely appreciate that. I'm going to get to those here shortly, but I do want to take us through the Futurecast and kind of explain visually kind of what we're thinking for tomorrow. So as we get that up here, this comes from College of DuPage, solid modeling site. I'm zoomed in a little bit. Let's see if I can't maybe get this a little bit bigger. There we go. All right. So Bear with me here. Hopefully this will be good enough for y'all to see as we get going here. So again, this is the high res rapid refresh. This is valid. This was the 18Z run. This was the 2 o'clock model initialization. This starts out at 2 o'clock today, so we will go forward in time. And and I have blown this up a lot, so I'm gonna have to scroll around a little bit, and I apologize for that. Um, but as we go through time here, um, we see that thunderstorm complex really begin to get going. You can see a couple features here. This is at 10 o'clock on Tuesday. So again, note in the Carolinas we're still pretty quiet, and I think that we're going to get the morning in pretty quiet. But that is going to allow us time to destabilize. That is going to allow us, again, the uh, that warm air advection process that'll be going. That is going to pump that warm air, that warm and moist area into the area, helping to get us destabilized with an upper trough that'll be driving this thunderstorm complex starting to drive into the area as well, and that is going to help with that instability also. Um, and you can see here the simulated radar product here. There's some pretty strong cores in this guy at 10 o'clock as it's moving across Mississippi into Alabama. Um, and so let's move forward in time a little bit more. And this goes to 2 o'clock tomorrow. And again, have kind of a mess here. We have a complex of thunderstorms with moving into a very unstable and well-sheared environment. We have, certainly some stronger cells back in Alabama as well. And this is going to move into Georgia. And in Alabama and Georgia, we are concerned. Storm Prediction Center is concerned. We are concerned for the potential there south of I-16 generally in Georgia for the threat for maybe one or two strong tornadoes, maybe EF2 or higher. There's certainly the concern that the environment will be favorable, not a slam dunk, but it will be favorable in those areas for the threat for significant tornadoes. And again, that risk is going to drop off a little bit as you get into the Carolinas, which is good news, but it does not become zero by any stretch of the imagination, because this cluster of thunderstorms, something else to note on this run, and we're going to get a new run here in a minute, and we're going to take a look at that too. We do seem to have a couple discrete storms that try to form ahead of the main line. And again, in a well-sheared environment, they're going to be competing a little bit less for moisture and inflow, and that could produce some localized severe weather across parts of Carolinas. Generally, the main risk through about this is at 5 o'clock. So the main risk is going to be generally I-95, I-20, kind of in this corridor here, where we see the vast majority of these stronger cells. But we do have some of these discrete cells trying to fire here, and it's not clear if that's a signal here, and we're going to take a look at that in a minute to really verify that. By about 7 o'clock, this is 7 o'clock, 23Z. By about 7 o'clock, we start to see, again, vigorous showers and thunderstorms move into South Carolina proper. It's starting to reach the coast at this point. We may see a little bit of weakening here at this point too. There is some capping noted in the model soundings, and what that generally means is that there may be a little bit of a lid here that might not allow the updrafts to be as vigorous. But with the forcing that we have and with the wind shear that we have to sustain some of these updrafts, that may not matter. So we'll be keeping a close eye on that. So again, expect the weather in, like, for example, the Charleston metro to start going downhill about 3 or 4 o'clock. That's what I would generally plan on in the Charleston metro, maybe a touch later up in Georgetown and in Myrtle Beach. Meanwhile, you're going to be seeing a rain threat up into North Carolina, and really that's where the concern will be for flash flooding. A couple rounds of very heavy rainfall, inch or two at a time, and really flash flooding could be a problem with any of these cells. There's a lot of moisture to wring out. We have not had a lot of rain to soak in the ground, and so we could see runoff if we get too much at one time. Yes, we're in a drought, but that sometimes can be offset by very high rain rates. So again, we'll move forward in time here. This is 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, and by 10 o'clock or so, we should start to see the main line of thunderstorms exiting the South Carolina coast a weaker line segment still in northern North Carolina. We still could have some sporadic damaging winds up there, but as the night goes on, the severe weather threat will decrease. Um, and that is certainly that is certainly what we are all hoping for. So let's take a look real quick. Let's see how far we've gotten with this new run of the high res rapid refresh, and we're still about 15 Z's. So we're going to come back to that in a little bit. So what we'll do here is let's talk a couple questions real quick because we have had a couple questions come in. This is from Lane. Is this a similar pattern to what produced the long track tornadoes we had a couple years ago? I wouldn't say that it's the same. Um, the parameter space is just not is nowhere near as extreme as the I presume you're referring to the April 13th 2020 severe weather outbreak that morning. um, we don't see that extreme parameter space in place over the Carolinas. Now, that being said, I mean, again, you get a little further south, and I think that that's where you're going to see some of your issues there. But if it comes in as a cluster, if it comes in like a little more messy, I don't think that we're going to have certainly the certainly the strength of what we saw that day. I think that day is still highly anomalous for this region. I'll also say that. It is very rare that we get a setup like that, and even rarer that we get one like that that executes. So again, we'll keep an eye on that, but I'm not too concerned about that. Again, damaging straight line winds are certainly going to be the main issue, especially if this thing has a lot of forward momentum. If it's riding a cold pool, a rear inflow jet coming in, and that can cause pretty decent wind damage in a lot of spots. Um, the good news is that we're going to be out of this well before the air show. The air show looks great in Charleston. Thank you, Mac, for your question. No worries for the air show this weekend in Charleston. So very happy about that. We've all missed the air show and from COVID, and so we want to make sure that we get that in safely. And it is going to be absolutely a beautiful day for lots and lots of airplanes. So again, we're going to watch to see what this new run comes in, and so for those of you who might have just joined us, I want to bring back the severe weather outlook real quick, and I want to talk about this again. What we're talking about tomorrow is the potential for a damaging wind event, a fairly widespread damaging wind event, possibly in southern South Carolina, back into Georgia and Alabama. Georgia and Alabama will have the greatest risk of seeing tornadoes, perhaps strong tornadoes. There will be a tornado threat, though, across much of South Carolina into southern North Carolina, again, depending on where the warm front ultimately ends up. This outlook is going to be tweaked tomorrow as we get details in. And again, we'll take another step here, and we'll take you to the satellite and radar here, and you can see that the genesis of this thunderstorm complex, we're seeing it now in Dallas, north of Dallas, south of Oklahoma City, kind of along the Rio Grande there. That is where we are seeing the tornado watches, severe thunderstorm watches are out now. That is going to develop into some sort of squall line, thunderstorm cluster, mesoscale convective system, something, and is going to race across the south overnight into tomorrow. So again, that's where our concern lies right now, is watching this develop closely, and again, I'm we're gonna keep an eye on this, and once it develops, I think we'll have a better idea of like exact timings for the places in the Carolinas that we are expecting some problems here. But generally speaking, as we go back to let me turn this view back on real quick, and generally speaking, we're starting to get some more frames in too, and so we can start talking about maybe some of these trends that we were seeing. And again, this is the new run. This is the brand new run. We just went through the 18Z run, which is like the last long-term run. So now we're going to look at the new high res here. And kind of one of the cool things about using College of DuPage actually is that I can show you some of these limiting factors that I'm also concerned about, because we have had a lot of severe threats just not pan out, especially in the Charleston area. And those of you who have followed me over the years, this is the thing that happens. I don't know if it's luck, I don't know, but we just somehow miss out on these. I don't know if tomorrow is gonna be that quite that kinda day yet. There are failure modes here. There could be some mid-level dry air that'll cut off the instability a little bit. There could be, if we get showers that develop ahead of it, that might not be modeled here. That could certainly put a damper on how much instability there is. It's worth noting too that when we look at the model here, you can see, you probably should be able to see my cursor here. Is that most intense portion of the line again, southern Alabama moving into southern Georgia, and it is entirely possible that that could once again rob inflow from moving north, causing a more robust severe weather threat into the Carolinas, which is why, I mean, that's why the SPC roughly has the hatch tornado risk generally in this neck of the woods right here, kind of where I'm circling my mouse. So, so again, that's that's one that is certainly going to be watched for down there. I don't know, and again, position differences, timing differences, all of that could come into play. But generally speaking, what we're expecting in the Carolinas, we should start to see rain move into the Western Carolinas probably by noon, maybe even a little bit earlier. Depending on, again, sometimes the models don't get the forward speed of these things right either. And so, again, we got to give ranges right now. We're not in a place where we can give exacts. So, we're going to give ranges. And so, so generally speaking, the Western Carolinas, I'd say starting at 10 a.m., be ready for some rain, right? Um, Showers, thunderstorms, certainly a possibility. We'll see. We'll see where the organized line segments ultimately end up being. Um, as we go further into time, here's 2 o'clock. You can see that the model somewhere along it's seeing some sort of boundary in which it's firing up additional showers and storms ahead of the main line here. It's almost like I heck, let's have some fun with this. Let's take a look. Um, I don't know that it's a temperature gradient, but it looks like it might be a moisture gradient. This is the theta E, and this is basically a value of a measure of moisture in the atmosphere. That's a horribly oversimplified way to talk about it, but generally speaking, it looks like maybe it's firing up along a moisture boundary here. We'll back this out a little bit. But you can see overall, when you see the reds, the yellows and the reds and the oranges surging up, that's that warm and moist air moving up. We can also take a look at the dew points. And again, yeah, it certainly seems like it's firing up on some sort of secondary moisture boundary there. So that's going to be something that'll be an interesting feature to watch tomorrow. Because again, one thing that we would love to see is a little bit of crap vection, as the storm chasers tend to call it, to actually diffuse some of perhaps rob some of the energy ahead of the main line. We see these updraft helicity tracks. It certainly indicates that these storms, will have some rotation in them. Not necessarily tornadic rotation, but enough to sustain themselves. The wind shear, again, 50 to 60 knots of wind shear is right where we would want, given, about 500 to 1,000 joules of CAPE, convective available potential energy. That's your instability parameter. It looks pretty good. So let's talk failure for a minute. Let's talk about failure. Let's talk about, oh no, the weatherman's wrong. And I don't think I can get sounding data for this model. Let me go to the wrap here. All right, so this is the 21Z from 404. All right, so this is so this is tomorrow at 1 o'clock. And I'm just going to take let me see. I don't think I can do a sample with this, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to take I'm going to try to anyway, if it will let me. Oh, it blocked the pop-up. That's funny. Okay. So block and pop-up windows here. What we're doing, we're getting really geeky here, friends. We're going to just lay into this thing. So, and I want to show you kind of where some of my issues lie. So this is roughly around the Charleston metro area. This is at 1 o'clock. This is the rapid refresh here. And something to note is that we have a lot of surface CAPE. So we have a lot of surface-based instability. It's expected to be 77 around that time, with a dew point of 62. That's a lot of that's plenty of warm and moist air. That's plenty to work with there. And as a result, any parcel lifted from the and you know what? Let me I can demonstrate this even better because they let you change the parcel that you use. Any air parcel that we lift from the surface is going to be able to tap into a fair bit of a fair bit of energy. But the problem is that it looks like that there is going to be some sort of maybe some dry air entrainment. Maybe this little inversion here is going to have something to do with it. And that average parcel in the first kilometer of the atmosphere suddenly is not as unstable. We go from 1,000 joules of CAPE at the surface to 251 joules of CAPE in the mean layer. Now, that being said, it's still nothing to shake a stick at, especially when you're talking about the wind shear that we have that we'll be dealing with. But again, and this is kind of and this is generally saying about 30 knots of bulk shear here, and this is going to go up as the day goes on. Um, so so again, not really too much helicity here at 1 o'clock. Let's move forward here in time. Let's go to 24 hours from the 21Z. So this will be at 5 o'clock. Generate a new sounding here, and there it goes. And by that time, we're in the rain. You can see this is very contaminated. It's basically we're in the rain at this point, and so the sounding becomes a little bit tougher to use. But if you look at the shear parameters, we're now around 40 knots of shear off of this sounding. So and there's a little bit more storm relative helicity as well that could help support these updrafts. So anyway, all of this to say that while there could be some dry air entrainment there. That is certainly something that we're going to want to keep a close eye on. So again, moving ahead in time now, we can get to about 8 o'clock on Tuesday. Again, 0Z Wednesday is 8 o'clock Tuesday, and this strong line of thunderstorms pretty well defined here. Actually, a little bit better defined than what we saw on the 18Z run of the high res rapid refresh. So again, we're looking at this fairly closely. Now we have a good question from Tom in chat here. What are the capes looking like? And we just kind of we touched on that a little bit, but let's go into this a little bit more. So, and again, we're getting geeky here, folks. We're going to show you exactly we're going to show you exactly why we're worried, right down to the T here. So this is the high res. Again, this is the high res here. You notice where you have some of this like muted color here. This is where we have convective inhibition. This is where we have kind of basically like you need to overcome this in order for the parcels to rise. And we have a fair bit of that hanging around at the surface. This is the surface-based CAPE. But again, that surface-based CAPE gets anywhere from 1,000 to about 1,000 joules or so, 500 to 1,000 joules at the surface. Now, when we average it out, which is a much more realistic way of looking at it, because again, it's very rare that you get a parcel lifted directly from the surface with no other modifications to it at that point. This starts to diminish a little bit. We do have some spots where we have still some decent mean layer CAPE developing, especially along the coast here. So that's an interesting thing that we're going to want to watch closely here over time. But overall, you get into these areas where that mean layer CAPE, and then you have the convective inhibition that might be working against it. But again, we'll see. We've had busts like this recently, where the parameters were good, but there was that pesky little inversion that shut us down that happened a couple weekends ago. In the Charleston area. So again, looking forward on the reflectivity product one more time. This is going now to 10 o'clock. By 10 o'clock, we should have the line of storms offshore. Heavier rain, but maybe not as well organized up in North Carolina. Maybe a few thunderstorms. Can't rule out a damaging wind gust. But again, as we get into 10, 11, 12 o'clock, we should see that severe threat wind down. And which is good. We don't like severe weather at night. We don't like nocturnal severe weather. That's just not something that we do here. So not something that we do well here. I'll put it that way. So we don't like that. We don't like that anywhere. And the good news is it looks like that will not be the case. So again, what we're going to ask folks to do tomorrow is just stay alert, stay weather aware. We're going to have you can tune into our Carolina Weather Net. We're going to have severe weather coverage as needed, but we'll also have a ticker running in the bottom that'll show you the current watches and warnings. We will have we'll show you radar, we'll show you forecasts, we'll show you bulletins, things you need to see there. If you have a weather radio, and you should, one, make sure you got good batteries in it, and two, keep that thing in the alerting position tomorrow. You're going to want to know if a severe thunderstorm watch or warning is issued for your area, especially the warnings. Um, keep your cell phones handy. Again, keep them handy, keep them charged. Um, this guy is this, these guys will go off um, and they will, they'll fire up an alert for you if a tornado warning is issued. So we certainly encourage you to look at that as well. Keep that in mind as well. And finally, think about where you're going to go. If God forbid a tornado warning is issued, where do you go? If you're in a home, a site-built structure, lowest floor, interior room, closet, not really many basements in this part of the world here. A little bit further north, you might get a little bit luckier, but certainly not here in the low country, unless you like some flooding with your tornado safety, which I don't recommend. So once again, we want people to be in that lowest floor interior room. If a tornado warning is issued. Now, if you live in a manufactured home, a mobile home, not something site built, you're going to want to look at that very closely. You're going to want to see, okay, where is my nearest site built structure? Where is my nearest shelter? Tornado shelter, community shelter. Look that up. Where's the nearest place I can go? Tornadoes and damaging wind events with mobile homes can be dangerous. You can drive. I mean, we've seen countless examples over the years of debris being driven right through the home. We've seen, homes toppled over by strong straight line winds, and obviously tornadoes, not great either. So again, we want folks to be thinking about those things, taking those precautions, and with any luck, we don't get anything. And again, there are those failure modes there. So if it doesn't pan out, yay, that's good. We would like to see that, but the environment is such that we are kind of on high alert tomorrow for the potential for this thunderstorm complex to cause some problems here in the Carolinas. So again, we're about 30 minutes in here. If y'all have any more questions, feel free to put them in chat here. We're going to aim to be out of here at about 9:35, but if you have great questions, then I can be persuaded to stay. So let's before we get out of here, let's take it from the top again real quick. And again, looking at the severe weather outlook for tomorrow, again, that enhanced risk, that level 3 out of 5, South Carolina, south of I-20, Charleston, Orangeburg, North Augusta, Georgia, Georgetown. That is where we believe that the greatest risk for damaging wind gusts will exist. The greater tornado risk is going to be confined to Alabama and Georgia. We'll see how that works out. But again, we'll need to monitor this closely. But again, the thinking is that the best risk for tornadoes, some of which could be fairly substantial, will be in that area, generally south of I-16 in Georgia into Alabama, from roughly Montgomery to maybe Savannah. So that's the area that we're of concern there for sure. There is a tornado threat, a non-zero tornado threat, especially as we get into South Carolina. And but that risk will diminish the further north and east you go, as you not getting as unstable, and that will help to tamp down the risk. So got a question here also. Salty is dumb makes a great point. Salty is not dumb here, because I'll tell you, this is potentially round one. We could be dealing with 2, maybe 3 of these over the next couple days. There's a big lumbering upper low that's going to just spit off spokes of vorticity our way. And this guy is, and so we're going to have a couple rounds of this. Wednesday's threat during the day is somewhat minimal, but we could see some isolated thunderstorms certainly fire, especially in the Charleston metro area. And that could get up to, and that could cause some issues at times. But yeah, we are definitely much more concerned about Wednesday night as a secondary thunderstorm complex begins to uh, move through the area. I'm going to go get the outlook graphic real quick here. Let me see. Day 3 severe thunderstorm outlook. All right, let me share this bad boy out real quick. Let me turn this on here and I'll zoom in on it. Do it live. All right. So you can see here, this is day 3. This is valid on Wednesday. Um, and we have this enhanced risk area from Birmingham, Alabama, into Atlanta, into just shy of Greenville, into southwestern North Carolina. And this is going to be what we're going to be watching for Wednesday night as another disturbance swings through. Um, the the parameters are looking good for another damaging wind threat, but tornadoes certainly cannot be ruled out. Again, here's the probabilistic 30% chance of a severe thunderstorm within 25 miles of a point. That's pretty good. Those are pretty good odds when it comes to severe weather. That slight risk, kind of like the slight risk avocado almost, it surrounds the enhanced, includes places like Charleston, Columbia, Charlotte, Boone, Asheville. And then the lower risk, at least through Wednesday into overnight Thursday, will be found when we get to places like Myrtle Beach, Wilmington, Fayetteville, uh, Raleigh, Greensboro. But when we go to the day 4 outlook here, I'll freeze it at day 4. We have a 15% slight risk. Well, I thought I froze it at day 4. All right, here we go. Nope. It just really wants to animate. So just got to leave my mouse there and it still wants to animate. So that's great. Open an image, new tab. Did I get it? Yes, I got it. All right, cool. Nope, I didn't get it because it's just a GIF. Oh my God. What have they done to me? Anyway, if we hover over day 4, here we go. Day 4. There it is. I hovered over the wrong one. We have a 15% area, roughly analogous to what a slight risk would be day 3 and earlier. And that is for Thursday, primarily Thursday morning, as the final cold front comes through. Now, after that front comes through, it's going to be great and it's going to cool off. And we may actually be dealing with frost and freeze conditions in the upstate of South Carolina into North Carolina as we get into Thursday night into Friday. So again, it remains spring. I think that's the takeaway here. It remains spring. We still remain in this transitional season, and weather can do some interesting things this time of year for sure. So with all that being said, we are right at 9:35. I'm going to go ahead and wrap the stream up for the evening. But again, watch us on Carolina Weather Net. We will have coverage as needed. Jumping in, especially if we start to see some evidence of some widespread severe weather, we'll jump in here in the evening, right as that line begins to make its approach into some of the populated areas, Columbia, Charleston, etc. We're going to keep an eye on it all day. Have your weather radios handy, have your phones handy, keep them charged. And with any luck, we'll bust again, and and you guys will be throwing tomatoes at us, and that's fine. I will gladly take a tomato pasting if it means that we don't have to deal with any severe weather. Nobody wants that. So again, folks, just stay safe tomorrow. Stay aware. There will be updates to the forecast. There'll be timing changes and stuff, and we will come back and we'll have updates for you on our social pages. On my page, Charleston Weather at CHSWX. It's on the microphone for the Charleston metro area, and at Carolina WX Group, wherever you get your social media. So for now, I'm Jared Smith here in Charleston. Thank you for watching, and we hope you all have a wonderful evening, and we will